Around 5 years back, I was working in Rajasthan on a large-scale school transformation project. The work required me to move into the interiors of Rajasthan, often visiting government schools. On one such visit, I was standing at the door of the classroom, observing the entire class, and I noticed this one single girl who was throwing all the questions out of the classroom when the teacher was throwing it at her. This girl seemed definitely older than all her classmates. Intrigued, I found the teacher during the break time and I inquired what was really going on with this girl. And the teacher tells me that this particular girl topped the class 2 years back. I was surprised. And I inquired further, to which the teacher said, this girl would have to travel 30 kilometers every single day, shelling out 70 rupees every single day to travel to the next nearest school. Yet, she loved learning so much that she keeps coming back to the same class year after year after year. Can you for a moment imagine the kind of boundaries imposed on this little girl's dreams? Can you also envision the resilience that she demonstrated to break free from those boundaries? After witnessing this heartbreaking story, I dug a little deeper into the stats around secondary education in our country. And the data threw up grim picture across the country, both rural India as well as urban poor communities. The enrollments were significantly lower, the dropout rates extremely high, and the graduation abysmal. Coupled with the statistics as well as the story, that inspired me to move to the city of Pune to start the first standalone secondary school in partnership with Pune Municipal Corporation and the Akanksha Foundation. The vision of the school was to offer excellent education to children coming from poorest communities in grades 8 through 10. There was such a massive shortage of schools in the city at that point of time that our long-term goal was that the success of the first school should inspire more such schools in the city. Let me tell you another story. Before we started the first day of school, our whole school team gathered and we decided that we are going to visit every single student who was going to join our school, their houses, in their communities to learn about their dreams and aspirations. That's the first time I met Namrata, the most eager students I have ever come across in my life. I remember the day when all of us had visited her house. She gleefully shared with me that she had just finished reading Kiran Bedi's autobiography to follow in her footsteps to become one of the first female role models in the community. She wanted to go to the top college in the world. I could not help but notice the similarity between Namrata and the girl I had met in Rajasthan. Both of them had pinned such hope on our flawed education system. As I walked out of Namrata's house that day, I wished for just one single thing. In the short time that Namrata was going to be in our school, could I leave her with the same tenacity and resilience that the girl from Rajasthan had demonstrated? Over the next 2 years, relentlessly with Namrata and 60 other students of the first batch, overcoming severe academic deficits and graduating all of them successfully in grade 10th board exam. This initial level of success inspired 7 other schools over the next 4 years that are currently serving 1,500 students in the city of Pune. As for Namrata, she stood second in her class and earned the full scholarship to one of the top junior colleges in the world called United World College, Armenia, somewhere in Central Europe. As she was packing her bags, all of us were quite worried. How is she going to move from this to a completely new location, a completely new country, a completely new set of friends? And into the first term, she sent me a mail that I would like to read to all of you. This term has been slightly better than the last term for me, as I'm trying to follow up with the academics and organizing my academic life more productively. Although there are ups and downs which keep coming on the way every day, I'm trying to find my way out and learn from them and keeping on with moving forward. This is similar to the situation which I will never forget, and I think you remember. It was back then when we had the sports day last year in school, and I participated in running a race for 200 meters. Of course, I did not win because there are more and way better sports students in our school than me. But the struggle for me was at least to finish the race, and at last moment, I was so tired that I could not run anymore. You and the entire team were there at the end of the running track, cheering and supporting all of us who were running. Almost everyone finished the race, and I was struggling to finish it when all of you shouted, "Don't give up and finish the race, you can do it." Always when I look back at that moment, I wonder how someone can believe in us more than ourselves. And I'm really thankful to all of you because at the end, I knew that I'm not going to win the race, but for sure, I'm not going to give up running because I think I will lose the race. I learned a really good lesson that day, and I reflect back at that event every time I fall in this new place. It was probably her resilience that earned her the next full scholarship, and she's currently studying on full scholarship in St. Olaf University in the United States of America. Perhaps the first woman to graduate from a government school in the city of Pune to go and study abroad. Over the last 26 years, hundreds of educators at the Akanksha Foundation have created hundreds of stories like Namrata's. We have demonstrated that children coming from poorest backgrounds can break boundaries imposed on them by the society and oftentimes themselves. Several of our alumni from the centers have now become role models in the community. For example, Seema, who got selected in one of the top MBA colleges in Mumbai, but decided to join Teach for India Fellowship and subsequently became the school principal to teach in her own community. Naval, who dropped out, got married, had 2 children, persisted with education, and came back to teaching. Samir, who was perturbed by the rising crime in his community and chose to become a police officer. And Hussain, who after studying Masters in Public Policy from St. Xavier's College in Mumbai, went on to work in the communities with Kevalya Education Foundation and is now turning the walls of government school buildings in Mumbai into learning aids. Over the last 10 years, the Akanksha Foundation has been running 20 schools in partnership with Mumbai and Pune Municipal Corporation, serving over 7,000 children and proving that it is possible to achieve exceptional outcomes even within government's cost per child budget constraints. Some of our current students are already breaking boundaries. Nirjala is one of the 4 students selected in the entire city of Mumbai to go and play with Queen Park Rangers, a London football club. Mrunal is the 2nd student to have qualified for a full scholarship in the United States of America. Yashodhara is a national cycling champion, and one of my recent favorites, a group of 7th graders in one of our schools have invented a patentable product called Aqua Eye that can help prevent wastage of water through leakage of tanks. We have demonstrated over the last 4 years that 430 graduates from our schools have achieved more than 70% of them have graduated first class above. Out of those 430 graduates, we have 98% of them enrolled in grade 11 and almost 81% enrolled in a full degree college program. As I reflect back on what does it truly take to break the boundaries, I wish to share with you a couple of lessons that I've learned through my own journey and the journey of our students. The idea of breaking free from boundaries often feels daunting, especially in a country like ours, where we are conditioned to think and live in a unidimensional way from very early on in our life. We are cocooned in comforts of known paths and comfortable in following what our peers, our friends, our relatives, our neighbors believe what we can or cannot do. And therefore, even when we see someone walking an unknown path, we tell ourselves excuses. We say they must have had it easy. They must have been more privileged. They must have had more access to resources. I grew up telling myself the same story for the first 24 years of my life. Growing up in a middle-income household, I was confined to believe that an engineering degree from IIT is going to give me a successful and fulfilling life. I continued to suppress the desire to make difference in the lives of children who were slipping through the cracks of our education system. And I kept telling myself those excuses for the first 24 years until my assumption was challenged. In this very city, around a decade back, I used to volunteer at an Anganwadi, a daycare center where 25 children from the poorest communities would come in on a daily basis. Like any other Anganwadi, this Anganwadi never received its ration on time. While most of us volunteers stood outside complaining and criticizing, I saw one of the days that the children in this Anganwadi were being fed. They were being fed by the Anganwadi helper whose salary would often come in few weeks late. The same helper who lived in a 10 feet by 10 feet house in the same community was bringing rice from her own home to feed those children. She did not have the privilege that you and I have, nor did she have access to the resources that you and I have. Yet, here she was, breaking boundaries in her own radical, compassionate way. That story had a deep impact on me, and that's when I decided to join the Teach for India Fellowship cohort in 2009 and subsequently decided to become the principal with Akanksha Foundation. Look back on our alumni, the ones who are truly breaking the boundaries, they have similar traits as that helper. They are choosing compassion over cynicism, empathy over apathy, and resilience over defeat. As we, as a nation, start thinking about quality of education in our country for millions of children, the narrative of education still revolves around a quick fix mechanism of bringing in technology, of smart classrooms, of jobs, skills, employment training, which in our understanding is a pretty bad view of education. We at Akanksha Foundation believe that character development should be placed at the forefront of education more now than ever before. We believe that we need to bring up a generation that can question and act boldly and challenge the status quo. And from our experience, we have learned that such an education is a slow, gradual, yet steady process that takes place one student at a time, one classroom at a time, and one school at a time. Thank you so much.